Budget Address. The 2022-2023 National Budget Address comes your way after last year's budget on building a dynamic Dominica. This will be the 18th budget address of Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, and this year he will present a budget in the amount of $1,119,829,003. This is one of our largest budgets in recorded history. Last year, he presented a budget of $993,645,290. Of course, we expect to see the number of capital projects which will be part of this budget, and we can expect the future housing program and the international airport to form part of the 2022-2023 National Budget Address. Before we get into the actual parliamentary sitting from 10 a.m. this morning, we have a pre-budget discussion for you. Joining me this morning will be Mr. Sam Raphael, the proprietor of the Jungle Bay Resort and Spa, and also the president of the National Youth Council, Ms. Ashma McDougall. We take a break and we'll be right back to speak with Mr. Sam Raphael on his expectations for the 2022-2023 national budget. Good. We need to mic up Sam. We need to mic up Sam.
The mic off. The mic off.
Okay. Welcome back to the Government Information Service coverage of the 2022-2023 National Budget Address, Budget Day in Dominica, to be presented by Prime Minister the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, who is the Minister for Finance, Investment, Telecommunications and Broadcasting. Joining me now is no stranger to GIS Studios, but maybe for the first time here in a pre-budget discussion, Mr. Sam Raphael. The last time we were together was at the launch of the international airport.
That's correct.
In June last year. Let's get right into it, Mr. Raphael. What are your expectations for this 2022-2023 national budget?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur and a business person, so naturally I'm interested in the items in the budget that will lead to growing the economy. And I think this is very important. You see, the funds for the budget comes from mainly taxes and levies. And we really need to see a growing economy to be able to collect that $1 billion+ that you're talking about and more. There are many services that the people of Dominica need, from healthcare to security, you know, and education and other needs that the average working person in Dominica require. We have issues of inflation that's global in scope. Once you import things, it's going to cost you much more. And your wages, the wages of the working men and women, aren't keeping up with inflation. So that's something of grave concern. But I think at the core of that is growing the economy, because if you can grow the economy, then the government will be able to extract more in taxes and levies without people feeling it as much.
Without income tax.
Without income tax, because if you have a larger pot to pull from, then we can have the necessary resources to deal with the health issues, mental health, and the issue of childcare and security. Those are growing issues in Dominica. We definitely need the resources for that. So the important thing is to grow the economy. And you mentioned the international airport, and that's one of the key things, as a tourism person, that we're interested in. Certainly we want to see the monies go into the destination promotion for tourism, because that's part of the enabling environment for economic growth in tourism, is that we definitely need to attract more people. We need the monies for security to make sure that the people are safe, but people need to be able to get here, and we have the largest infrastructure development plan project in the history of Dominica is being undertaken, and we would like to know more about that. We heard recently that a general contractor has been selected, and we're certainly looking forward to learning more about that general contractor, in particular, their capacity, the resources that they have, because this project is being funded by the Citizenship by Investment Program, which is, fortunately, the revenues have been steady, but it's subject to other world events. So we would like to know that that contractor is strong financially, that regardless the cash flow situation, that they can in fact complete it, and that they have the technical capacity which would be required to complete that project. So I'm very interested in the naming of the general contractor and learning a little about them and their capacity.
Another major project that government has focused on for the past year, and even more important now with rising fuel prices, has been the geothermal development project. And I expect to hear more about that in the budget.
Correct. Again, with the inflation, one of the things that's been hit hard is fuel costs. And in Dominica, we depend heavily on fossil fuel, on diesel, for our electricity. And that's important because it impacts the average consumer, the average working man and woman in Dominica. But it also impacts businesses and our ability to attract investors to Dominica. Because when you look at a jurisdiction and you're considering doing business, energy costs is a major factor, and somehow we have to find ways to drive down that cost. So we'd like to know how that geothermal plant is going. It's ongoing. How quickly is it going to be operational so that it can bring some relief to the ratepayers of Dominica? So that's a major project that we want to hear more about.
A focus has also been on the digital economy. Just recently, we were at Jungle Bay, where 60 young people graduated from online working, an online working and training session. What will the digital economy do for tourism?
Those initiatives are very important because those are not stick and mortar investments. Those initiatives are soft investment that impact the lives of people. And so, that's something that's critical. So we're looking forward to hearing more about initiatives like that can support the development of young people there.
Well, Mr. Raphael, I look forward to the budget presentation, and I also look forward to when we speak more about the budget.
Yes.
You can hear in the background the government troops are making their way towards the parliament. This ceremonial opening of parliament happens once a year, but people want to hear what is in the budget. While many people may look for the social initiatives in terms of education, healthcare, you are concerned about your own development, tourism development. Jungle Bay, let's talk about Jungle Bay for a little bit. How has Jungle Bay fared out during the COVID-19 pandemic?
It's been a very difficult challenge for us, as for everyone else in tourism. COVID has scared people from being able to travel, but we're very hopeful now, and especially in light of the international flight we have from Miami and American, we expect to have some growth in tourism for this coming winter and beyond. So we're very excited about that. And these are things that are going to contribute, I think, to revenue for the government so that they can meet the social needs and other needs for infrastructure development. So this is important, in terms of again, pushing investment in tourism, destination marketing, and support for access to Dominica. So those are the things I'd like to hear about. Not just in tourism, but also there's interest in agriculture, the growth of agriculture for local consumption to reduce the import demands, and also the growth of agriculture for export
Yes.
to bring in foreign exchange to Dominica, as for other services, as you mentioned, manufacturing and so on. So at the end, again, as I said earlier, my interest looking at the budget is how are we going to improve the enabling environment for investment and business in Dominica.
Thank you, Mr. Raphael.
Thank you,
for
Darrell.
joining me this morning. You
Right.
hear the troops are now arriving to my right here, and the troops are now arriving as they come, being led by the Music Lovers Government Band here. The Music Lovers Government Band, of course, headed by Mr. Peter Later, and his platoon is making their way, and they will position themselves outside the studios of TBS Radio. No. I want that on.
I don't get in on camera, my
No,
brother.
brother me. Cut off my mic. and welcome back to live coverage of Budget Day in Dominica. The parade of uniformed troops has just arrived at the Parliament building, and you can hear in the background the various commanders of the parade giving directives to the troops on parade here so they can be in uniform order. Joining me now is the president of the National Youth Council, Miss Ashma McDougall. Miss McDougall, you're here at Parliament this time as a stranger. The last time you were here in your capacity as a youth parliamentarian. But let's get right into the discussion. Sure. What does the youth want in the 2022 national budget?
It's a very odd question because, the youth demographic in Dominica is quite diverse. We have youth ranging between 18 to 35 years. And obviously the needs of youth between 18 to 24 are far diverse from youth between 31 to 35. But the National Youth Council actually embarked on a budget street talk in the past week, and we collected insights from young persons across all pockets of the island. And most of the information gathered was pointing to job creation. A lot of youth are, asking for jobs to be created. And again, we have returned students as well. So a lot of them have indicated that they would like to see greater opportunities created as it relates to jobs being created for them. From the NYC's perspective, we actually participated in the pre-budget consultation that happened last month. And all findings are somewhat demarcated within three priority areas. One, educational reform. And the thing is, with that particular priority area, it speaks to the relevance of what is being taught in the high schools, what is being taught at college. Because as a lecturer myself, many employers report to us and say that they don't think that students are coming to the jobs ready for work. Okay. And so it's necessary to actually go back to review whether what is being taught is actually relevant. Secondly, another key priority area that the National Youth Council identified was building or developing an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so many persons come and talk about, they want to see lower taxes or they want to see more technical support provided to entrepreneurs. But with that ecosystem, we're looking at so many different parts playing a role in how successful entrepreneurs would be. And so from the entrepreneurial perspective, we're looking at, supply side policies. How can capacity building be somewhat incorporated for them? We, for example, met with a young entrepreneur from Marigot on our journey last week, and he indicated that he got a lot of support, financial support from the government. However, he felt that it was necessary to somewhat follow up, because sometimes, although they actually have the funding, they may not necessarily have the capacity to use that support. Exactly, to use that funding effectively. And so we think that it's necessary to ensure that even though the financial support is provided, there should be some kind of technical support that is also provided. Now, within the entrepreneurial environment itself, it is necessary to ensure that persons can actually survive within the environment. So cost of production is very high for them. So within this budget, it would be ideal to recognize any opportunities that youth may be provided with that may lower the production costs.
One such opportunity might be the geothermal development project.
Indeed. Actually, this is one of our National Youth Parliament topics, and we are strong proponents of investment in renewable energy. It's also wise to ensure that we look at other forms of renewable energy. Yes, we have made a lot of strides with geothermal, but there are also many other forms that would prove very beneficial to us in Dominica as well. The third key priority area that we identified was mental health. And we are seeing the cost of mental health on many of our young persons in Dominica and as well as society. Just walking through the streets, we see there are many young persons who need that help, right? In addition to that, we walk through many communities, and there are many young persons who, with perhaps proper guidance, perhaps that rehabilitation that may be necessary through a rehabilitation center, they may be able to get back on their feet.
Are young people taking advantage of the opportunities provided by government?
Interestingly enough, I feel they are not. But I think the problem that may exist is information failure. And this is not something just for young people, everyone. There are a lot of initiatives that are available. However, as it relates to getting that information, it's extremely difficult because, for example, I have friends who are building for the first time, right? And I know that the Future Housing Program, I'm part of the advisory group, the Future Housing Program is being implemented to support, to provide that opportunity for first-time homeowners. But prior to that, there was also a $10,000 grant.
Under 40, yes.
People don't know about that. There are a few people who know about it, but many persons don't know. I think the government needs to make, I would say, better strides. They need to make better strides in ensuring that information is disseminated effectively across the entire country, right? Because some people may know about it, but everyone may not necessarily have that information.
And what role can the Youth Council play in ensuring that this information gets to your demographic?
So for us, what we always try to do from the DYBT, from the YDD, we try to ensure that we share the information with our digital networks. So we recognize that the best way to meet youth is digitally, because that's where they are.
Social media.
Exactly. That is where they are, right? They're not going to be listening to DBS. They're perhaps not going to be listening to the radio. They're not going to be watching the news. But you will more find them perhaps tuned in on this live. Or you'll find them tuned in on TikTok or other social media platforms. And so the NYC is engaged in trying to ensure that we can actually capitalize on these platforms that can bring across the information to youth in a way that they identify with. So, for example, when we came into the NYC, we created a digital space and via WhatsApp, where we are connected with many different young persons who are involved in youth organizations. But we also recognize that youth who are doing positive things are not exclusively involved in youth organizations, right? And so what we try to do is we send that information via our digital platforms to ensure that they know what's going on. There are many other platforms that we can obviously use, but at the same time, as a growing institution and as a new executive, we want to ensure that we take things one step at a time.
You mentioned digital a lot.
Yes.
There is the Ministry of the Digital Economy,
Indeed.
which is mainly geared at youth. You have a young minister, you have a coordinator, you
Right.
have a department. We have seen training in, for example, online working, training for people to work online. How can the youth play its part in developing the digital economy?
The youth definitely has a very critical role in the development of digital economy. I mean, as a young person myself, I can tell you when I walk around in the streets of Rose, I don't walk around with cash. I walk around with my cards, and I would really like to just place it onto the machine and swipe or tap. Within the digital economy, I know that there are many jobs that are being made available for young persons, right, through the work from home,
Work online.
work
yes,
online
yeah.
program. But outside of that, we find that right now there are a lot of entrepreneurs, and in such a global environment, this is the role I believe young persons can play. They get into entrepreneurship and they explore the markets outside of just Dominica, right? So, but we need that environment that allows them to be able to, one, sell their products online, right? And as well to be able to reach to a market that's much wider than perhaps even the region, the Caribbean region.
The global market.
Exactly, and that's what it is. So I think the role of the youth in regards to that is really capitalizing and trying to see how we can build somewhat of a system that will allow entrepreneurs to be able to find markets for their products outside of Dominica. I mean, many persons to hint to the fact that the local market in itself is small. And so it's an opportunity there to sell a product. For example, JD's Natural. JD's
Yes,
Natural is an
yes.
international product. We have persons using it all across the world. However, I believe an opportunity exists for young entrepreneurs like herself and others to find opportunities to create somewhat of a digital space. I mean, Shop DM already exists, and it provides an opportunity for people to buy online. But in Dominica, outside of Dominica, not as successful, and I would like for that to perhaps be expanded. So that's one opportunity in my own perspective.
We don't
for
have
young
much
persons.
time left, but you cannot leave before you talk to us about the future housing
Yes,
program.
yes.
I think this will be a major part of this year's budget.
Indeed.
The future housing program. You are part of the advisory
Yes, I am.
committee. Tell us about the future housing program.
So the Future Housing Program is basically empowering young persons, well, I won't say young persons, young professionals through ownership, right? And generational wealth is like a new word. It's like the resilience, it's like toxic, all of these words that young people know these days. Generational wealth is a key ideal that many persons want to ensure that they can actually achieve. The Future Housing Program provides opportunities for first-time homeowners to obviously access housing. And we did a site visit. Obviously, the views in Warner are extremely beautiful. And the government has somewhat promised to ensure that there is subsidization of the land. And so that would obviously make the properties much more affordable That's the key aspect of this future housing program, the affordability aspect. Because for many persons, the realization of owning a home before 40 is quite impossible, especially now. I mean, we have an era of many feminists, many persons, many women are single through their 40s, and it's quite difficult.
Maybe another discussion we have to have. Yeah.
It's quite difficult for a one, I would say, a single income household to perhaps access a mortgage, right? And so that aspect is one, for example, that would definitely be somewhat, I would say, addressed as it relates to young persons being able to afford homes. Additionally, I mean, being completely honest as well, with regards to the mortgages that are available at the 6% rate, it's quite unaffordable for many young professionals as well. Even having worked 15, 20 years, they're still not able to afford a home. So the Future Housing Program is an opportunity to afford a home at a lower interest rate, and as well to have this, I would say, this collateral that allows them to pass on wealth through many generations.
Generational wealth.
Indeed.
All right. Ms. McDougall, thank you. We'll see you later for
Yes.
the post-budget
Indeed.
discussion. So you have told us what you expect. Let's hope your expectations come
Ahmed,
through
indeed.
in this national
Thank you
budget.
so much.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. Thank you for joining us. The ceremonial part of the celebrations are to begin very soon. We will soon see the arrival of the Prime Minister, followed by the arrival of the President later on. We take a break and we'll be right back with our continued coverage of Budget Day in Dominica. Welcome back to Government Information Service live coverage of the 2022-2023 National Budget. Within the next 2 hours, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit will rise from his place in Parliament, where he will deliver his 18th budget address to Dominica. The budget, we know that already, it's no secret. The budget is in the amount of $1,119,829,003, and it is one of the largest budgets ever presented in Dominica's history. This is the first meeting of the third session of the 10th Parliament under the Commonwealth of Dominica Constitution, and it's being held here at the House of Assembly on Victoria Street. It is the ceremonial opening of Parliament where His Excellency the President, Charles Sovereign, will deliver his penultimate address to Parliament as President of Dominica. The President is able to speak for any length of time he so wishes on any topic he so wishes. The troops are here for the ceremonial opening of Parliament. It is an occasion with a lot of pomp and ceremony a lot of splendor, the women in their hats, the men in their best suits, and comes once a year. Parliament has been prorogued by SRNO number 21 of 2022 and has been convened by SRNO number 22 of 2022. A full house is expected here. Over the past 2 years, we have seen the reduction in the number of strangers allowed in the parliament due to COVID-19 restrictions. However, this year we have returned to the vast numbers we have for the budget day presentation. Soon we will bring you coverage of the ceremonial aspect of the budget day presentation. That is when His Excellency the President arrives and will be given the salute by the parade of uniformed troops which are here. The parade is being headed by Superintendent of Police, Mr. George Theophil, who is in his place, and we see the officers who are here. There are 3 platoons, to include 2 platoons of the police service and 1 of the fire and ambulance service, as well as the Music Lovers Government Band, which is on parade here on Victoria Street, right outside the Parliament building near the studios of DBS Radio. We now see the arrival of a number of parliamentarians who are arriving here, and they are coming here to be part of this National Budget Day in Dominica. This is where I will leave you. Julian Morris will take over to bring you the ceremonial aspects. That is the description of the parade of troops, the arrival of His Excellency the President, and what have you. We will return this evening with the post-budget discussion from 6 p.m. This will be moderated by Mrs. Dion Dura-Smith and will include Honorable Dr. Vince Henderson, Dr. Jared Jajak, as well as Ms. Ashma McDougall, the President of the National Youth Council. So we take a break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the ceremonial portion of the National Budget Day in Dominica, the opening of this parliamentary session, the first meeting of the 3rd session of the 10th Parliament.
At this moment, we're looking at the arrival here of the Honorable Prime Minister. He is usually carrying this small red box or briefcase, whichever you choose to call it, but he always has this. We always look forward to seeing him. He's accompanied by his spouse, his wife, the Honorable Melissa Popon-Skerrit, who is, of course, the parliamentary representative for the Roseau Central constituency. The Prime Minister is likely to be saluted by the platoons of officers there. This is likely to happen. Indeed, it will happen, as is normally done. He will receive the salute there, after which he will enter the chamber. That was the Honorable Prime Minister receiving the salute of the Guard of Honor there outside the Parliament. This very important day here in Dominica, Budget Day, the Prime Minister enters the chamber, and what we will be awaiting subsequently will be the arrival of His Excellency, the President, which normally follows that. As you know, the President is expected to deliver his special message today, what some refer to as the throne speech. He will usually speak on a topic of national interest, a topic that he chooses, whichever topic he chooses, and he will speak for as long as he so desires. And this is what we're waiting here this morning as the ceremonial aspect of the proceedings here at Parliament, at the House of Assembly, continue here this morning. I'm sure for those of you who are joining us, you may not be aware, but so that I'll just inform you quickly that the overall parade commander here is the Superintendent George Theophil. We have a number of platoons. We have 2 from the police force and the 1 from the fire and ambulance service, as well as the government band. So at this moment, they're pretty much standing at ease, just awaiting the arrival subsequently of His Excellency, the President. What will happen following that, at some point, the Speaker will suspend proceedings, the sitting of the House, so that they can receive His Excellency, the President, who will deliver his address this morning. Some of us refer to it as a throne speech, others by other names, but it's essentially the same special address by His Excellency, the President. At this moment, as we said earlier, officers are just standing at ease here and waiting. I do not believe we have too much more time before 10. We are probably about 5 minutes away from the 10 o'clock hour when Parliament is due to start. Parliament usually starts at 10. In the next 5 minutes, we will see the start of Parliament. And there is something interesting I'd like to share with you, just for those, especially the students who are listening, who may not be aware. We've had a number of presidents, prior to our current president, and I'll just run through them as I have some time, I believe, at this moment, just a short time. We had back from between 77 and 78, 1977 and 1978, His Excellency Frederick Desgarzons. And he was, of course, St. Lucian born. And interesting story surrounding him. He fled Dominica to Britain during the constitutional crisis of 1979, leaving Dominica at that time without a president. Subsequently, we had General Armour, who was installed acting president after Desgarzons fled Dominica. But that's General Armour, was never listed as a full president. And subsequently, we've had other presidents. Following him, we had His Excellency Aurelius Marie from 1980 to 1983, His Excellency Sir Clarence Signoret from 1983 to 1993, His Excellency Crispin Sorrento, a native of Vic, as I might add. Speaker, he was Speaker of the House prior, between 93 and 98, and the President from he was President from 1993 to 1998. His Excellency Vernon Lorden Shaw followed, sworn in October 1998. He served until 2003. Following him, you had His Excellency Nicholas Orville Liverpool, President from 2003 to 2012, and His Excellency Eliud Williams from 2012 to 2013 after Liverpool, His Excellency Liverpool demitted office due to illness. Quite a line of succession here from one president to the other, very important part of our government system. And for those of you who are listening live or watching live right now, I believe momentarily, we could see the arrival of His Excellency the President. And as soon as this happens, as soon as he approaches, we will bring that to you. So at this moment, we'll take a short break, and as soon as His Excellency arrives, we will continue and resume a broadcast. And now we are witnessing the arrival of His Excellency, the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, His Excellency Charles Angelo Savre. He has arrived, and of course, this is what has been anticipated all the while. We had the arrival of the Prime Minister and his spouse, Mrs. Scott, earlier. Now, the President's wife will be escorted in to the chamber, and he will remain behind so that he can inspect the guard of honor this morning and receive the salute prior to him entering the chamber for his address. So as you see, His Excellency's spouse is being escorted in, as we mentioned, and he is making his way now to the dais where he will be saluted. He will receive the salute, the general salute from the troops, the uniformed troops, and then he will be invited by the overall, the commander, the commander of the parade, the overall parade commander, to inspect the guard of honor. This is an important part of the ceremonies here today, and there you see His Excellency getting onto the dais.
Deux ans, give me a white design. Right, for the president, and for the president, and then for the president, right. I'll go do what you're doing now. Just now. After the I'll go first. I'll wait. Okay, I'm this on now. I'm this on, I'll wait. Albert, I coming to you. Okay, this one I come back to you just now. This one I come back to you. Yeah, I'm back on this one. Albert, I coming to you here. Okay, Albert, I coming to you. And Albert. This one I on here.
Vince Henderson. You are no stranger to this honorable house, having served as parliamentary representative for the St. Joseph constituency and as the Minister of Government for 2 consecutive 5-year terms. I have absolutely no doubt that you will serve the new constituency, this parliament, and your country with the utmost honor and distinction. Mr. Speaker, please further allow me, on behalf of my wife and family, and on my own behalf, to convey sincere expressions of empathy to the family, friends, and loved ones of Kanisha Etienne, to the Honorable Raymond Blackmore, parliamentary representative for the Mahmoud constituency, of which Warner is part, and to the residents of Warner and the entire nation regarding the distressing kidnapping of Kanisha, who to date is still missing. We were all horrified and deeply saddened when greeting on the morning of Wednesday, June 8th, 2022, the news of the abduction of this 12-year-old girl named Kanisha Etienne from a home in Warner on the night of Tuesday, June 7th, 2022, and the serious bodily harm inflicted upon her adopted father, Joseph Bruno, by the kidnapper Kian Alexander, now deceased. All of us, not just as fathers and mothers, but as caring members of society, were very hopeful that the massive response of the police, fire and ambulance services, forestry division, all the first responders, and the public at large would have resulted in Kanisha being found alive. As days stretched into weeks, we became more and more apprehensive. News that contact had been made with the kidnapper on June 18, 2022, raised our hopes that he would have been taken alive and would divulge the whereabouts of Kanisha. Fortunately, he did not surrender peacefully, whereupon he was shot and soon thereafter died of his injuries. It baffles me as president that immediately following the capture and death of Kian Alexander, a narrow spectrum of persons shifted focus from Kanisha, the victim, to Kian, the abductor. As a parent, grandfather, brother, uncle, godfather, and concerned citizen, I have great difficulty in comprehending the rationale behind this unfortunate behavioral aberration. No child should ever be abducted, and no parent or loved one should have to endure such a deed. Let us learn from this tragic experience and do all in our power to ensure the safety and protection of our children. Mr. Speaker, I was very impressed and touched by the collective outpouring of concern for the safe return of Kanisha and a strong condemnation of this tragic unfolding event expressed by all spheres of society from the very day of the news of the abduction broke. I wish to take this opportunity to thank the residents of Warner and the many persons who volunteered to assist the police and the first responders in the extensive search for Kanisha, and to encourage all able-bodied persons to continue to lend their support to the police and the first responders in the ongoing search for Kanisha. A special thanks are also extended to the government of Dominica and the leadership of the Dominica Police Force for the alacrity with which they sprung into action and mobilized to ensure that all the required resources were available changes, illicit trade in small arms, drug and human trafficking, restrictions in international trade, growing negative influence of the social media, debt and its economic and social impact, and the resultant strife